Christmas sermon is a rather daunting task. This is the one day of the year when everyone has heard the gospel before. The one time of year when people really listen and have almost memorized the story we just heard by heart. It's probably the most important story in the whole world. If this story were erased from Western civilization, there would be a huge void, especially in art, literature. No Sistine Chapel, Notre Dame, or Pietà. No Messiah, Magnificat, Christmas carols, or hymnal. The Christmas story has been painted, performed, and written about over and over by many of the greatest artists, musicians, and authors of the past 2,000 years. And truth be told, that first Christmas in Bethlehem was far from perfect. Maybe more like a Christmas pageant, a little out of control, fraught with holy chaos, and filled with love. That first Christmas was, well, messy, kind of like real life. And maybe that's why we love this story so much. Jesus, the Son of God, is born into a messy world, into human history, into a human family as a helpless little baby, much the same way we are. His parents don't seem to have all the answers or know what they're doing or where they're going, but what they do have is an incredible faith. And speaking of faith, let's consider those shepherds that we heard about. Shepherds were not part of the high society of Bethlehem. They were considered spiritually unclean, social outcasts. They were leading their ordinary shepherd lives, keeping watch over their flock, when what to their wondering eyes should appear but an angelic vision. In a single moment, all that was rote and predictable and routine about their lives was turned upside down by an angel. And what happens to those shepherds when they return home? They carry on as usual as if nothing ever happened, or are they somehow changed by this extraordinary encounter with the incarnation? And what about you? Has this season of Advent grabbed your attention? Are you ready to celebrate incarnation? You understand the significance of the incarnation. Well, tonight I'm offering you a chance to behold the same wonder that those shepherds beheld, a close encounter of the divine kind. I'm going to share a parable with you written by Louis Cassels, titled The Parable of the Birds. And it is a parable that will open your heart to the truth of the incarnation. Now, I want you to put your good listening ears on. Everybody is going to understand this story. I'd like to introduce you to a man, not a student. He was a kind and decent, mostly good man. He was generous to his family and upright in his dealings with others, but he just didn't believe all that stuff about an incarnation, about God becoming human that we hear about every time. It just didn't make sense, and he refused to pretend. I'm sorry to disappoint you, told his wife, but I'm not going to church with you tonight. I'd feel like a hypocrite. I don't believe all this God-made man stuff. Staying home. So he stayed behind. And the rest of the family piled into the car to head to church. Shortly after the family left, snow began to fall. The man went to the window and watched as the flurries got heavier and heavier. He returned to his fireside chair to read. A short time later, he was startled by a thudding sound, and then another and another. First, he thought someone must have been throwing snowballs against his living room window. But when he went to the window to investigate, he saw that a flock of birds were huddled miserably in the snow. They'd been caught in the storm and in a desperate search for shelter were trying to fly through. No. Couldn't just let the poor creatures lie there and freeze. And he thought about the barn out back. If he could direct the birds into the barn, they'd have a warm shelter. Quickly, he put on his coat and boots and tramped through the deepening snow to the barn. He opened the doors wide and turned on a light. The birds would not come in. He thought food might entice them, so he hurried back to the house, got some breadcrumbs, and snow. He even made a trail right up to the brightly lit, wide open doorway into the barn. To his dismay, the birds ignored the breadcrumbs and continued to flap around helplessly in the snow. He tried to catch them and shooing them in the barn by walking around them and waving his arms, but instead they just scattered in every direction, except to the warm, lighted barn. And then he realized that maybe the birds were afraid of him. He reasoned that to those birds he was a terrifying creature. And he thought, if only I could think of some way to let them know that they can trust me. That I'm not trying to hurt them. I'm here to help them. But how? Every move he made seemed to frighten him. They just wouldn't follow him, would not be led or shooed because they were afraid. Then he thought, if only for just a moment, I could be a bird. And I could mingle with them and speak their language. Then tell them not to move. Then I could show them the way into the safe, warm barn. But I'd have to be one of them so they could see, hear, understand. That moment, the church bells began to ring. The sound reached his ears above the sounds of the howling wind. And he stood there listening to the bells ringing the glad tidings of Christmas. Sank to his knees. No. Oh my God, now I understand, he whispered. Now I understand why you had to do it. Tonight, we are offered the gift of God's radical love for each one of us, the profound gift of the incarnation. It is the greatest gift we could ever receive. God coming to us in the form of a human being so we would understand. Tonight, you have encountered God in the manger. And this baby, Jesus, will grow up. He will grow into a man who will enliven our thinking, enable lives of grace and loving kindness, and focus our attention to the needs of those around us. Every encounter with Jesus is a life-changing experience. How is this encounter going to change you? May the brilliant holy light of this very, very holy night shine in your heart forever. Come, let us adore him. Thanks be to God.